Today I'm going to show you how to make Ainsley's Blenderized Formula. I start out with some white whole grain bread. You simply tear that apart and put it into the high-speed blender. And you can use other grains. It's just that I find that this is really easy and convenient just to have a loaf of bread always in the pantry that I use specifically for this purpose. I go ahead and add some liquids to that bread to soften it up. About 1/3 cup of orange juice. I add about 1/2 cup of strawberry kefir. This is kind of like a yogurt product, but it's a little bit runnier. And the fact that it has strawberry flavoring in it kind of adds something to the blenderized food. I add about 1/3 cup of high sugar applesauce. Now, the reason that I do this is that commercial formulas tend to include quite a bit of high fructose corn syrup or sugar in their formulas. So rather than trying to sweeten up this formula, I just use some sweetened products. The kefir in combination with the applesauce gives it a bit more sweetness. Okay, so that's going to soften up that bread. I'm also going to add my vitamins at this time. I put in liquid vitamin D. We live in the Northwest, so there's a lot of talk about people needing vitamin D, especially where we live. So I add that to her formula. I use polyvisol with iron, liquid vitamin supplements, and I add some sort of an omega-3 oil. Right now I'm using flax oil. I've also used cod liver oil and olive oil. And you can modify this depending on what you think is best. The dosage is a tablespoon, but I'm assuming that that is for an adult, so I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons. Now you'll notice that I'm just adding ingredients approximately, because I have a pretty good sense of how much of something that I'm adding, because I cook a lot. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can by all means use measuring cups or measuring spoons. It's just that I don't feel the need to do it. I like it to be fast. So I just guesstimate, and it doesn't matter if it's a little tiny bit off. But if you want it to be precise, then go ahead and measure. Now I'm going to add, sorry, I didn't show you that. I'm going to add 1/3 cup of just chicken breast. Now again, this is approximate. It's somewhere between 1/3 cup and 1/2 cup. It's just chicken, like it says. I find that this is really convenient. You can also cook up your own chicken. You can substitute leftovers, but this is really consistent. It's always the same. As far as making a formula recipe that has a certain amount in it of calories, fat, and water content, you know that when you use the same products every day, that's going to be consistent and make your dietitian and doctors happy. Now, the other ingredient that I add is bananas. Now, you can use a fresh banana, but I find that it's really convenient to use frozen bananas. I chop them up when they're very ripe and just throw them in the freezer. Now, they may stick together. That's okay. A high-speed blender can handle that. It's no problem at all. So I'm going to add about 1/2 of a banana. And then my last ingredient is the vegetables. Now, this I make as needed. I use frozen vegetables. You could use fresh vegetables if you prefer, but it's really easy to use frozen. I keep it in the refrigerator, and then I just spoon out the amount that I want. Now, this is about 2/3 cup I'm going to put in here. And what that contains is green beans, peas, broccoli, spinach, carrots, corn, and a little bit of potato. Now, the beauty of making your vegetables like this is it can be consistent from day to day, and then your fiber intake doesn't fluctuate too much. But you can change that if you like. You could even put raw vegetables in your formula if you like. I just found that for us, cooked works best, and so that's what I do. And you can either make them very cooked or not so cooked, and that's all right as well. Because a high-speed blender, as you will see here, as I turn this on, can handle it, and it can puree anything. So those ingredients are just going into the blender whole like that. I'm going to turn the blender on. This is a Blendtec blender. It has a smoothie button, and I'm going to push the smoothie button, and that's going to start my mix. Now, you can see what I'm doing here is I'm pushing down some of the ingredients on the side. Sometimes you'll get some little skins and stuff that will stick. Now, you probably saw me lift that up a little bit as it was going. Because this mixture is pretty thick, you can actually do this. I saw the guy at the Blendtec demo do something similar. I thought, well, that's kind of crazy, but you can. Now, I don't know if you can do that with a Vitamix. So, you know, make sure you know your blender before you go opening the lid. So what I've done is kind of push those skins away from the edge so that it will puree them. You know, for me, it's really just kind of an appearance thing. I don't think that it'll clog a tube, but it just, you know, has little bits. So I like it to be super fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it up to high speed, that's speed 10, for a while, and that just purees it super fine. Now, I've got a little visitor here who's watching me. She wants her food. Ainsley, don't bump the camera. Move over, honey. So, okay, I'm losing my train of thought. So it purees better when it's kind of thick. When you get to this point where it's been pureed, you can then add a little bit more liquid if you like. Now, if you don't want to do it this way, you don't have to. But I think, especially if you want a thinner formula, you will get a finer texture if it's thicker when you first puree it. So I just think that this works a lot better. So what I like to do is get it, right now it's exactly at 4 cups. And often I add some milk, more or less, because I want it to be a little bit higher than 4 cups so that it will fill 4 of my glass baby bottles completely. So if you fill it to exactly 4 cups, then you're a little bit short on each formula container. So this is why I do it this way. So I'm going to put it up to speed 10. Blendtec blender, you push any button to stop the blending. So now you can see it's a little bit more than 4 cups, and that's what I wanted. Okay, so I'm taking the lid off, and now I'm just simply going to pour it into my 4 baby bottles. Now I scrape it out. You could, if you don't like to scrape with a spatula, you could just simply make a little bit more so that you don't have to do this, but I don't like to waste the food. I like to know that all of the multivitamins and whatnot are actually in my formula. So lately what I've been doing is scraping the sides down. Now, in my previous video, it was much thinner, and so, you know, I just poured it out, well, basically like this, and then I was done. But see, there's actually quite a bit left on the sides. It's easy to just scrape it off, and then it will fill my container completely. Now, I do give Ainsley additional milk. So if you don't like how thick this formula is, you could simply add your milk to the formula. You probably have to get some larger containers somehow, but if you want to make it thinner, you could do it that way. Now see, I've got all of it in here. Now the nice thing about the Blendtec is that it has easy cleanup, and I'm going to just show you that right now. So the guy at the Blendtec display showed me how to clean it this way, and I don't think I put this in my video before because I wasn't sure you were interested, but now I think that it's important to see how fast you can clean this up. Now there's a little bit left in here. I try to avoid getting it all over the top, but even so it would clean it. I'm going to take this to the sink and I'm going to spray it out. And then what I'm going to do is add a little bit of soap. so, whoops, I almost forgot my water. So some hot water and a drop of soap. All of the other formula was sprayed out, and now I'm going to pulse it for a few seconds. Okay, so essentially that washes the blender. So now I'm going to rinse it out and put it here to dry, and then I'm ready for the next day. So that's how easy it is.